Hey, where, did we the gavel? Oh, okay, we sent this.
Okay, before we turn over to trustee Cushman, I want to make a little introduction. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to introduce Ontario County Supervisor Fred Willie as our newest board member. Trustee Willie brings to the FLCC Board of Trustees a lifetime of knowledge and experience in education, from being an elementary teacher, an assistant superintendent of schools, a superintendent of schools, a graduate school instructor, and now serves as the Ontario County Supervisor for Town of East Bloomfield. Trustee Willie. We look forward to your experiences helping us out with the Board of Trustees. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
George.
Thank you. Start the meeting for Education Planning Committee on August 7th or 4:30. Penny, I believe we've got AI working.
No, apparently we can't get it going.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right.
That's the plan.
Yeah, and there is a WebEx assistant that's second level, so if you can still state your name, it would be great.
Okay, so then I'll just, as we go through this, just as folks ask questions or present, if they could just say their name first. That would be really helpful when it comes to transcribing this meeting. So I'll call the meeting to order and begin with a review of the committee meeting minutes from June 5th. Seems like a long time ago. Are there any adjustments, questions, concerns for the meeting as published in our notes? Seeing none. Move on. Dr. Abatis from the enrollment report update.
Dr. Carol Davis, good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
So for summer enrollment, the information that was in your trustees packet for this meeting has not changed. That was the last summer enrollment report. So we have finished at 14.4% increase in headcount and a 16.1% increase in FTE for summer.
Oh, good.
Lots of physics sections. Lots of physics.
I like it.
Yes, online physics. Yes. So kudos to the science and tech department and our provost for making that happen. It's all good. So questions about summer? If not, I'll move on to fall. So I have an update from what is in your meeting packet based on the most recent Friday report on August 2nd. So headcount is up 4.2% for fall, and FTE is up 0.9%. We have 3 weeks left to the start of the semester, so we are at our peak time in terms of service demands. Any questions?
When will Gemini kick in?
In September. Yes, and probably continue through early November.
Any indication earlier, is it too soon? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Abatis. Move on to specialized student programs review and preview. So, and a crack team that you have.
Yeah, that's right. So, since it's a small venue, we can just go and so thank you again for having myself, but more importantly, my team members that really make our programs thrive. Tonight, we're going to just preview just a little bit of the program. Use it anyway. And I'll look at it once, and then we'll wake up. Perfect. Just making it. Tonight. So tonight we will cover some highlights of the 3 programs. I'm going to turn it over to the experts to actually talk about each of the programs as we go through this program, as we go through. A quick reminder, our PACE program is an internal grant-funded project that works with 4 departments on campus for all new and transfer students. It is optional to opt in. We offer these services. We reach out, but students that participate are doing so after we have reached out to them. Our SUNY ASAP program is grant funded through SUNY Transformational Funds, and it works with 150 students that have applied. This is going to be our first full year, our second term of the project. And then, of course, our EOP program has been around for 30 plus years. We're one of the oldest campuses on the SUNY system, and we work with students who apply to that cohort as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dustin, and as Dustin makes his way up, Dustin was hired just a little bit over a year and a half ago, not quite, but assumed the assistant director role, in May of this year, late May. So it's my pleasure to turn this over to Dustin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dustin Stallmaker, also here on the slide. I think the PACE program made a big impact last academic year. We managed to meet with 223 students prior to the beginning of the semester to help onboard them and familiarize them with FLCC systems, to streamline their acclimation to college life at FLCC. We, over the course of the academic year, reached out in response to starfish flags raised by our faculty on over 1,000 occasions to students with mixed results in terms of actually being able to reach them, but that outreach was done. And we completed 85 outreaches based on our chatbot system. That was an effort led by our technical specialist, Veronica Bardi. And we also, under the previous leadership of Colleen Johnson, 7 videos were produced that were shared with students electronically to try to support them as they got acclimated during the early weeks of each of the semesters. Thanks to systems put in place under Colleen's leadership, I'm proud to say that already this summer, we have done pre-semester outreach and spoken with over 200 students. So we're nearly at last year's total for the entire academic year, just at this stage in the summer. And we've learned lots of lessons based on last year, and we have lots of good ideas to ensure that the PACE program has an even bigger impact this summer. So I think I will pass the
Questions about PACE?
Donna Hilly. Just curious where the grant is coming from for this program?
This is a presidential initiative that Dr. Knight runs for.
The board approved these monies last year.
This is a board.
Yes.
This is a board approved request for the money to support this program.
Okay. We continue to make that clearer. Thank you.
Any other?
Yeah, one quick question, George Cushman. Can you just kind of cite maybe a couple of things you learned last year that you're implementing this year that really stood out?
Yeah. So one of the things that we took away from last year was that in terms of the online content that we produce, the 7 success, what we were billing as success labs, last academic year, they did not reach quite the level of engagement that we were hoping for. And so we are trying to downsize those in terms of length. And rather than calling them Success Lab 1, Success Lab 2, we're making them thematic So it'll be much clearer to the students, why we're sharing this content with them, what they can expect to take away from it when they, click on it. And, so that's something that we're in the process of streamlining at this stage. Also, I would say we've learned a lot about the way students of this particular generation like to communicate. Phone is not a favored method. So we're thinking about ways to reach students more, to leverage text as a mode of reaching students, and I hope that they will be more receptive to engaging with us. Yeah, those are two things that come to mind. I'm sure I could come up with.
That's great. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I also have one. You reference ASAP and that if a student successfully completes a term, maybe just expand a little bit about that SUNY ASAP project and what it's about and how are they invited to join it or just asked to be a part of it?
So just to be clear, I oversee only the PACE program. The SUNY ASAP program is overseen by Mr. Youngren, who I believe will be speaking to you in just a moment.
Teed it up. Great. Thank you.
And then you could feed us up on that.
Thank you for not stealing my thunder, that's. Appreciate that.
So as Nissa makes her way up, Mr. Youngren was hired as the assistant director just, I think, 8 weeks ago.
I began just as students were exiting, so I did glimpse a few, but, yes, at the beginning of May I began.
So, and this SUNY ASAP is the transformational funding grant that the college got that will run through academic year 25-26. So this is the first full year. We implemented it last spring. While we were finding out about it, it was awarded in August and we implemented it in January. And so that was a lot of implementation that took place over, 15 weeks or so. We had 53 students join us, receive an invitation to join us, and 34 joined us. So we had 34 students with us last spring in the SUNY ASAP program. We stayed away from PACE students last year because we wanted the distinction so students knew. But this year we have kind of amped it up. We have 150 spots we are trying to fill. So, yes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ms. Youngren. Thank you for having us. This is super exciting. As Sarah just mentioned, I joined in May, so I am learning as I go, and as is a cadre of other schools in the area. This is a program that is being run in 25 4-year and 2-year SUNY schools. So we're all in this together and but of course have different flavors, every campus does. So myself and we had a new staff person join on July 1st, are doing our best to recruit students and trying to find the best ways to recruit students. There's a lot of oversight with SUNY in terms of touching base, seeing where people are and trying to share best practices. So we've been able to use other people's experiences to figure out what is best for us. We have reached out to close to 600 students through various methods. We have found that the more personal, not rocket science, the more personal it is, the more likely we are to actually onboard a student. So of the 500 students, we've probably made personal contact with about 200, and that is by using the help of financial aid admissions, trying to identify students that meet our eligibility and our criteria, and then reaching out to them individually to explain the program, ask if they'd like to participate. So it's been, I think, important that we are trying to find the students that fit the criteria before reaching out and then encouraging them to apply. And so we have at this point 79 students who have joined us and signed agreements. And of those, there's about 20 people with children. We have 25%, SUNY is interested in having 25% of our participants be parents, so we can ask for extra support. And so we're closing on numbers. We have about 26 returners from the 34 that Sarah mentioned. So we are happily above the 100 mark of our 150. And primarily that is what we have been doing, is trying to reach out to folks, encourage them to apply, and explain to them what all the good stuff we have to offer. And we will get to see them soon.
Did that answer your question?
It did. I guess I just have a elementary question for me. Does the ASAP stand for what we believe it to be, as soon as possible, or does it mean something else? Sorry.
Accelerated
It's been associate pathways. It is hard. I keep getting them confused
Okay.
because of course, FLCC has another ASAP program. So, this is about retention and graduating students within 6 semesters.
Right.
Building momentum and trying to remove any smaller obstacles so they can keep going and not get overwhelmed and be derailed.
Thanks.
This is probably a question for later in the presentation, but it's hard for us, I'm actually calling this back up again to see what the criteria are for each of these programs. So I'm interested in knowing what the response is that you get from students when you invite them. Do they understand what they're being invited to? Do they see a benefit? Do they have to be convinced? Like, how much energy does it go into getting someone into them?
Sure. And right now, we're at that place where we have the luxury of lots of students to contact. And so we are doing a bit of the fire hose approach. So we have yet to get to that place where we have to pull students in because we need to meet the numbers. We are able to invite folks. We've certainly answered lots of questions about the program, but we are benefiting from people just continuing to apply because they hear about the program. The criteria are very basic, and so I think folks understand New York resident, Pell or TAP eligible, and be a full-time student. And so it's easy to digest to tell whether student or parent, whether they are eligible. And then what we are doing for them is pretty easy too. Of course, we have the carrot of offering money, different kinds of stipends, and then support from myself and Bryce. And so I think that it's, people get it. And there's been programs like this before that make sense. It makes sense to offer support in this way, but we're lucky to have a little bit of incentive.
Rich Russell, so you're not only recruiting people who are first term students, but also students who are already here at FLCC and full-time students.
Yeah, well, we have the returners who have been full-time for a semester, but we're also able to recruit students that have up to 21 credits, whether that's from a different school and they're transferring in, or they have accumulated credits at FLCC. And that is not counting Gemini credits. So folks to have 30 credits from high school and come in and obviously have more than 21, but that doesn't count. It's only 21 towards their associate's degree at, in this current program.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Yes.
Fred Willie, is this a program that has a strict timeline on the front end, where you roll invitations? So does he have that structural institutional flexibility, or is it here we go, let's go at point one, and then we get out of?
We have quite a bit of flexibility right now, but that's across the board with SUNY because we are all trying to work towards getting that 150 students. And it's a very unique situation because they want 150 students in the system. But of course, in the future, we will be adding as people graduate and through attrition. And so this is the one time we have to recruit 150 students. So it is going to be through the beginning of the semester. We'll be able to continue to recruit if we need to. And some schools have filled, mostly the 4 years, but have filled their spots. But there's some opportunity for flexibility in terms of recruiting.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So it's my pleasure to bring up Lisa Thomas, who is the director of our Academic Success and Access Programs, or ASAP, which is why we have endeared SUNY ASAP with the SUNY. Lisa's been here a while. I believe she's getting a continuing appointment again after this. But she runs our EOP program, and the SUNY ASAP and the EOP program have a lot of similar characteristics. So
I need a new directory photo.
wow.
20. But anyway, I'm Lisa Thomas. I'm Director of Educational Opportunity Program and also ASAP, Academic Success and Access Program, with EOP falls under. We had a pretty good year last year. It's been a year of challenge, it's been a year of change and getting adjusted. Right now, EOP has a mandate in place now. First-time incoming students attend a summer bridge program, which studies have shown has been very good as far as retaining students and getting them acclimated to being in college. So our summer program is 4 weeks this year, and we bumped it up right into the beginning of the first day of classes. That means that students could come in. A lot of our students are not local. So they could come in, they could move in to the suites and then stay. They don't have to go back home and then move back in. So our students are coming in on August 19th. The program ends on August 28th and move in is August 30th. So those students will already be in their rooms, which is a great benefit for them. We are working hard with admissions. We have a new initiative working with admissions. We've been able to use their slate. I guess what's the communication management system? Slate to get our applications and get our messaging out there to students. We just started a little kind of a project just to see how that works, but we're going into talking with Matt Stever, who's the director, about using it more to our kind of carving it to what we needed to do. So hopefully in 24, 25, we can use it more thoroughly and much more robustly to get out to students and get them to respond to us. Our one thing about SUNY, it really does support EOP, which has been in effect it's older than me, so it's over 50 years, 55 years. And FLCC was one of the first community colleges to sign on. But one of the things they do is believe in our students. So they have a first year opportunity for our summer program leaders. For our students who are in our program, they've been through the summer program, they come back and they serve as mentors for our students who are entering the program. So this was the first year they offered a leadership institute for our students. So we did send one leader, Blake Wells, to go to Albany for a 2-day retreat with other student leaders throughout the New York region for EOP. And he had a great time. He learned a lot. And he's taking that back now that he is actually in the midst of being a leader for our summer students. So that was a great benefit. We also had 12 students who received our Academic Achievement Award, our Student of Excellence Award, which is great because if you may know, EOP goes after students who are on that cusp. They're that CD average who need our extra support. So for a student to come in and reach academic excellence, 2.5 GPA, 3 to 4 point GPA in a semester or boom, it's just amazing to me. So SUNY does recognize those leaders. They send them a certificate, they sign it, the provost chancellor does. And we had a little recognition ceremony for them in April for those students who are graduating. So it shows them that someone is watching them, number one, but also shows them that someone is happy that they're achieving what they had. And going into that also as far as awards and achievement, the Norman R. McConney Junior Award for EOP Student Excellence. Each year we have an FLCC student that we nominate. We nominate more than one, but they pick that student. So for the last 5 years, we've had a student, they go get recognized in Albany with everyone. They meet the chancellor, they share their stories. And that's something they can put on their resume. That's something will give them a leg up when they apply for a 4-year institution. So we're very proud of our students for that. It's for students who have perseverance and show grit. Even though they have hard times, they've made it through. It doesn't mean that they're the highest GPA, but they've shown that consistency to grow in their education. Thank you. So takeaways and adjustments for this year. Like I said, this has been a challenging year. The last 2 years, since we came back from COVID, has been very challenging for recruitment and getting students to join the program. It requires a lot to become an EOP student. You have to show that you're academically eligible, financially eligible. That financial eligibility requires a lot of documentation. Sometimes it is a barrier for some students, especially those gen students whose families don't know anything about showing tax documents, providing anything.
So it takes a lot of conversation. I'm thankful for financial aid and financial aid counselors that work with us to communicate to students. So we're upping up our admissions with Slate. We're going to start in 24-25 with ongoing recruitment of students for the spring semester and for fall. So as soon as we get this class in, we're going to start recruiting again for spring students in October. Then we're going to start heavily for fall students in December, January. So it's going to be an ongoing recruitment cycle for our students. The FAFSA delay truly hampered us this year, but we're making it through. I already spoke about our summer program and the housing. Also, our EOP students who are already there will assist with move-in day, so that's a good thing. The constraints for SUNY, like I said, this is an older program. So the guidelines were written back in 1960. So the guidelines really, it's hard. It was good at that time, the legislation, but it's harder now that our system has changed so much, our students have changed so much to really get students to follow that. So what SUNY is doing, the Office of Opportunity Programs, is having a committee review those guidelines and see how we can change them, to see how we can utilize them faster changes, so that students don't have that barrier of bringing all the documentation in. You're asking, we always say, for people to improve that report. So we really need to do that. And going forward, we're going to work with marketing this year to revise our marketing materials. We really want to get in contact with our high school counselors, because that's where it is. We have to get the counselors to know what EOP is, and then them to encourage their students. We want to use our website more as a marketing tool, increasing our program visibility amongst the community and the high schools, and also use the available data that we have to make decisions. Any questions?
Yes. Lisa, do you have a capacity limit, assuming,
Yes,
Yeah.
each year we have what we call an allocation, FTE. This year it was 95 students. We did fall below that mark. Coming up 24-25, we're going to get 75 students. The formula, it is $1,850 per student that we can utilize. So with that grant funding, we give the students a direct aid award that helps with their books and their housing and their meals. And we also purchase their supplies and everything for them. That funding also pays our counselor, our full-time counselor. So this year, 75 students, we are about at 52. We are still admitting students, even though we are close to the beginning of school. We are still admitting students because they have missed the first part of our summer program, starting on August 5th. We have another subsequent shorter program for them when they start the first week of school. It won't be as in-depth, but it would be.
thank you.
Yes.
Steve Martin, thanks for your presentation. Is this a federally funded program?
It is, I'm sorry, it's a state.
State program.
Initiative, yes.
Is it subsidized or maybe added to our foundation, or any scholarships or any dollars flow?
No, it is at the mercy of the New York State budget. Every year, they do a lot of advocating and lobbying to keep those numbers up. We did receive an increase. New York State did get an increase in its budget this year, which is why the community colleges were able to increase our per student ratio. Of course, our 4 years get a lot more than we do. But that's we're at the mercy of the New York State budget. Yes.
Hi, Rich Russell, thank you for the presentation. I'm just wondering if SUNY is addressing some of the constraints to try to improve the process, or at least update the process. How much input are the community colleges getting relative to 4 years? Is that a question you can answer, or is?
I will attempt. We have a community college sector, which meets with our Office of Opportunity Programs, who oversees EOP. So that community college sector, all the community college was within the New York State EOP. And that is one of the main themes of all of our meetings. We need to do something to address the guidelines and how we can make the guidelines work for us and for students. So they hear us, and then we take that back to our monthly EOP all director meetings. They hear us, Cheryl Hamilton, who is the associate provost of student affairs. She is our leader, and she says she's going to take it to legislation. That's why they formed a committee, but it has to go through legislation. Any changes to the guidelines, because it is legislation.
Sounds like you're on top. Thank you.
Any other questions? I don't hold my time on it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Excuse me.
Is there a? We'll move on to the resolution on the consent agenda. I just want to ask our presenters to summarize things. We've got a lengthy list, and I can assure you that the board has read all of the detail. It really makes our week. So we've read through in detail, so if there's anything you need to add for context or.
So, Sam and I are just putting some visuals.
Just the detail.
If only that wasn't really what we were doing, but thank you, and I appreciate your time. We understand what we gave you as policies is very dense. But we were reacting to an April 19th missive from the Department of Education, which was 109 days ago, that we must adhere by August 1st to a 1,600-page document changing Title IX at the federal level. What Kim is passing out is a digestible Title IX, line by line, kind of what changed. It's a smaller version, it's only 15 pages. But we believe it's very important for you to have that as well as the documents. In our grievance program, or excuse me, in our grievance policy, that is the top policy we adjusted. The other policies were adjusted to comply then with Title IX. So in the Title IX, I'll take that one at a time. In the Title IX, they added and revised definitions. They clarified that recipients must comply with these regulations regardless of conflicts in the state law or with FERPA. They clarified that the requirements for designating a Title IX coordinator at the institution and outline very specifically what that person must do to oversee the implementation of Title IX on campus, which includes that person monitoring the recipient's education program and activities for barriers on a regular basis, not just waiting for reports. It clarified that sex discrimination, including discrimination based on sex stereotypes, sex characteristics, sexual orientation, gender identity, are protected. And it also clarified that sex-based harassment creates a hostile environment. Prohibits schools from requiring documentation for students to obtain reasonable modifications or other actions unless documentation is necessary and reasonable. This will impact students that are pregnant or have related conditions. They will no longer be required to ask for documentation. It will prohibit us from, it will require us to develop grievance procedures, which we've done. And it also ensures that real or perceived bias in the system is addressed. And the other major key element is that it requires all employees to be trained annually on Title IX. So we're going to take this and digest it into understandable language. And I think my video is 9.7 minutes. So we're trying to get it down to the key elements, and we've used SUNY's guidance to do that. So I'll pause there and ask if there are questions about Title IX.
So it looks like they're broadening the protected classes.
Correct.
And that's the challenge. You know, what I said, where do you draw the line, and then how do you identify and deal with procedure-wise and policy-wise all the new protected classes?
Yes, very well done.
Do we have a single Title IX officer or multiple officers, multiple designees?
So the Title IX coordinator on our campus, the position is embedded within the Chief Human Resource Officer.
Okay.
That also holds the title of Chief Human or Civil Rights and Compliance Officer. Apologies, there's a lot of acronyms. So that position right now, the Title IX coordinator is not filled at the moment. I am the interim Civil Rights Compliance Officer while we develop our systems and get the right people. My normal job is AVP. I'm the Deputy Title IX Coordinator, and Jennifer Parsons, who's the Assistant Director for Talent Acquisition, in
Management.
Yep. Talent management. HR is the other Title IX, and Sarah is our investigator on campus.
Thank you.
So am I correct in assuming that there isn't a lot of change in process or procedures? I kept seeing hearing officer
Yes.
being replaced, and I'm assuming that that was just a title change, or is that a change in process?
It's not a change in process. Often, I think we were replacing conduct officer. It's essentially the same thing, as far as what they do in the process.
But the procedures for Title IX have expanded with modifications to someone who might have temporary accommodations. They can now request those to be adjusted, which has never happened before. And so there's a lot of moving parts to it that will impact potentially other people that typically have fallen outside of our 4 or 5 office.
Thank you.
A few other of the procedures, which I think is a larger one, is that in the previous version of Title IX, the report had to be made to the Title IX coordinator in writing. Now, it does not need to be in writing. It can be oral, it can be given to someone else, and then passed on to the Title IX coordinator. So the ability to report has expanded, to submit a report has expanded.
So if it's done in an oral fashion, how is that information captured?
Yep. Part of the training process is ensuring that folks at the institution know that if that information is disclosed to them, what is their responsibility as an employee? And that responsibility is essentially to turn it over to any one of us or the other Title IX folks.
One of the things that we were able to do, thanks to IT's help, is on the My FLCC kind of landing page portal, we have our reporting options right there. It's a link, as well as on multiple websites, and more will be coming. So students, community members, employees, we should be able to find that pretty quickly to report a concern if we have it.
Literally click of a button, and they have options to report. But if someone comes verbally, then someone can document that and then bring that forward in a written concern.
So it would, one option, if one were presenting orally, would be to maybe copious notes that it happened, a date, a time, the subject matter, so when, if an audit or if a follow-up's required, right? Okay.
Yes,
All right.
yeah. We are still working on that, obviously.
I can see that.
And you mentioned in passing that this might be temporary based on the outcome of.
So there are injunctions, and you might have heard about the injunctions that happened in about 16 states. But there were also, there are city schools under those injunctions because there were individuals who were affiliated with Moms of Liberty or a few other entities that filed injunctions. And so those schools are prohibited from implementing all of the Title IX. They still have to implement quite a bit of it, but they are under injunction, thank you, to stop gender and gender-related conditions or bias from being implemented right away. It could come out that we have an injunction, the election could change all of this. I think former city council Joe Storch said it very nicely. We have a blue Title IX policy and a red Title IX policy, and they're very different, and we will have to respond based on what comes down at the federal level. So, moving parts. So I'll let Sarah talk about the non-discrimination.
The only other thing I would say on the injunction is that it was recently decided that the 3 organizations, if new members join those organizations now after the injunctions were put in place, if those institutions were not on the list originally, they will be put on the list where the injunction will hold for those institutions. So there is a possibility that we could become conjoined with this injunction. The Department of Education has a website in which they're updating and uploading the information There were 10 schools that were added in the last 2 days of July. So it is something that is very much ongoing and moving target. That's next.
Was New York State one of those that filed an injunction?
No, New York State is not, but there are 4 SUNY schools, 2 community colleges, 2 SUNY 4 years that are under the injunction. Okay, moving on to the non-discrimination.
Non-discrimination policy. So there's a title change as far as the policy itself. So it's now just the non-discrimination policy, and it encompasses discrimination as well as sex discrimination. And so that is where sort of the expanded definitions falls into play. So the expanded definitions are some of the changes that we have made in the document. Part of the changes, we're also ensuring timelines and reporting systems. We're all aligned with what is done for Title IX. So it's very similar as far as the process and the procedure once a report is made. Ensuring also within this that Title VI protections are also in place for all of our students and employees. And that it's important that this is a policy not just for students, it's a student and employee policy, as well as our Title IX policy. So those were the changes that were made. It's very aligned. It looks probably very similar to the one policy we read just before, the Title IX policy, but there are some differences. Yes.
Does that apply to volunteers as well?
Yes.
Third-party entities, as well as the Title IX. So if someone who's just visiting our campus could make a formal complaint in this new policy. Yes.
Just say that again, somebody visiting our campus.
Yes. So if someone is here for an athletic event,
Right, visiting here.
and they believe that they have been sexually harassed or been a victim of discrimination on some way, they can file a complaint with the college and we would have to take that.
How about CMAC? 250,000 people a year. That's a yes.
No,
No?
we're not sure, really. It's very complicated with the CMAC. We have talked to our SUNY lawyers because we're not the only ones with an adjoining large space. And they have not come down with a real great, it's very gray still. It's very good.
Doesn't include CPAC. So the flip side of being a victim would be does this also provide for whistleblower? So if I quote unquote observe, discrimination, can I whistleblow that? Is that part of it, or is that a separate policy?
It's a separate policy.
Okay.
and they're saying-
That applies to more than just non-discrimination.
Right, and this is more
Okay.
specific.
Okay, thanks.
Whistleblower can be.
You could report it to us though. Yeah, that, I was going to say from that, you could report it to our reporting mechanism on the campus police site, on HR, et cetera. So it was awesome. Yes.
Rich Russell, let's go back to CMAC for a second.
All right.
If we're talking to the SUNY attorneys, are we also reaching out to the county attorney to have a look at this and make sure we're coordinated?
It is on our list.
Okay,
This came out on July 2nd, and we've been just trying to figure it out. So honestly, I just want to be honest and transparent. It is absolutely, there's a lot of questions we have now that we have to start diving back into.
so as long as they're on the list of people to circle back to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I interject one thing? I think you'll find will be similar, and this is when there are other issues happening with CMAC. And not Title IX, but other activities that come out, legal actions or lawsuits. All 3 entities are usually embedded in that complaint. And then wherever it needs to go is where it gets pushed onto based on who had responsibility for that. I think it'll be pretty soon in this case.
Okay, thank you.
So any, for instance, we averaged 1 or 2 lawsuits every year or every other year coming out of activities either not property or at CMAC until the last couple of years. And that's exactly how it's going.
Go ahead, another whole question.
Well, we're going to move on to the next policy, so.
I'm just wondering there's an opportunity to collaborate with other community colleges around these questions that arise that you're just peeling back the literal weeks. To have some greater influence to get those questions answered. So some of the colleagues that you deal with in other community colleges, is that a pathway you're thinking about, or maybe something you might go along?
No, absolutely. A discussion group of student conduct administrators who I absolutely can reach out to. I know Sarah's on the listserv for the Title IX, where I'm on HR. Yeah, so there's plenty of other colleagues that certainly ask. That question.
Everyone's just peeling back the onion.
They are.
I'm sure other groups have questions.
It's
Sorry.
quite complicated. And the other piece we just want to note is Title VI is requiring training as well, not the kind of an freedom of expression policy, but we do want to note it in the non-discrimination. So every employee will be asked to also complete that. That's coming directly from SUNY. SUNY's creating it, SUNY's developing it. We will put it on our system, but that will be, have to be done. And I believe that's going to be about a half an hour, 40 minutes. Yeah.
Right now in tandem with this, or is it done at another date and time?
Well, I asked a couple weeks ago, my contact Julie Petty at City HR, and she said there wasn't anything, and then within days I received something saying that they were putting it together. They didn't give us a date, but we're doing with staff and is to say coming. You know, we have the Title IX, that's gonna be that 10-minute one, and then this is coming and it is mandatory, be aware, we're gonna be, you know, if you don't complete it, we're gonna be knocking at your door, you know, that type of thing, so, yeah. And it is apart from the normal mandatory training, so people might get confused, so that's why we wanna make sure we regularly communicate it.
A lot of the germs.
Yeah. And if the board wants to participate in the training, you can make that happen also.
Probably.
That's right. So I think that the next code is very easy. It's a lot of elimination.
So the student code of conduct, the previous version had a number of the non-discrimination policy items embedded in it. And so this process and most of the edits that you see are us removing all of the non-discrimination pieces in there because it's a separate policy. So it was very redundant, it was very long. And so we removed a number of those policies that are all now in non-discrimination. A few of the things just to highlight that were changed under, one was in the very beginning, under authority. There was a line that we added that indicated that ensuring that we, whenever possible, this governing process for modification of the code, but also noting that in the event of federal regulations, state regulations, city regulations, that may not be possible. Some of the other things was that we added another example under academic dishonesty. So this definition, it's in the definitions. This definition aligns now with the definition that was approved by Senate. Under reporting, we added sex discrimination to discrimination. So again, it's just aligning with our non-discrimination policy and ensuring that we're also in line with Title IX policy, with discrimination policy, and Title VI as well. It just changes to some names, things like that.
Questions about the code? Donna?
Sorry. Just under the hostile environment.
In the discrimination.
In this student code of conduct policy. There are circumstances where you could have a hostile work environment that is not related to discrimination or sexual harassment. But I didn't see anything in the student code of conduct about that. And I didn't know if that was addressed in some other policy somewhere or.
What I can tell you is that when students, in my experience, sort of hostile environment will fall under the different policy violation. So oftentimes it may fall under the physical or threatening conduct definition. So we don't have one specifically, because hostile environment, hostile work environment, again, that falls under sort of the Title IX discrimination pieces of things. So the other piece is that when we receive complaints, we then have to review it and make a determination which policy does it fall under to then go through those procedures. Because these are different procedures than what are in the Title IX.
And so there might be a situation where it's a student who's in a hostile work environment situation, but it could also be a student in a classroom where the class environment feels hostile.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily based on the definitions listed for non-discrimination or sexual harassment. And how would that be reported?
Students can report things on the reporting landing page. There's also an opportunity for just a general incident report, so students can do that. A number of times before that they have access to that, they oftentimes would just send an email to either one of us, mention it to their instructor, and their instructor would then reach out to us. If they're housing students, they would mention it to somebody in housing as well. So there's a number of ways in which there's no shortage of reports getting to us, I will say that. But we have added a general incident report form, reporting form on that landing page.
So then also be on the radar.
Yes,
So radar is one of those
yes,
to report. So there's multiple, which is required by the federal government. So let's say bias related reporting form, let's say radar. So privacy disclosure form. So we have a lot of training those out. So any other code questions? Otherwise we'll move to freedom of expression. So we're here on behalf of our colleague, Dr. Covington, who shepherds this policy. But based on the discrimination, non-discrimination, based on Title IX, based on the changes in the code, and given SUNY's requirement to look at time, place, and manner based on the spring and what was happened in the spring in our country, we were asked to review what was or is our freedom of speech policy. And using SUNY's guidance, we are adjusted it to add procedures, to add some definitions, to ensure that we are in best practice trying to help those on our campus be able to study and work in a location where they feel safe and supported and have the freedom of expression to voice their own opinions within reason that don't impact others studying and voicing their opinions. And so it's a fine balance, but that is what the change really is related to defining and again, putting more procedures in that SUNY guidance has provided to us.
Questions? Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I'm sure there are typos and there's, we will figure out all of those pieces before they go up on the websites and such, but formatting and stuff we will work on, but we tried to get it to you and we understand it came very late, so we do apologize and appreciate how much you spent probably reading it.
These words come right from the federal guidance, if you will.
Oh, yeah, that document.
There's a lot of qualifiers,
Yeah.
presumably, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the 11 already.
Yeah, and you're on page 3 probably.
Right. And that's in my opinion, after reading it, that's like the best summary document. It is the most easily to read, believe it or not, and has been the most helpful. So I thought that's what I think of you guys to have.
Thank you.
I think the board appreciates all the work that you're all going through, and believe me, we feel your pain.
It's because they impact students and they make a difference.
Yeah, this is,
It's redefining the groaning table.
We'll take that with us. Thank you.
Thank
you.
thank you very much. Ed?
Since you have already all read the write-up on Matt Hans, let me just say a couple quick things. Thank you for letting me come and present as well, but Matt's been with us for quite some time. He had a different position where he met his 5-year probation. He stepped up, took on a new position as manager of technical support services. This is his 2-year extended probation, so this hopefully is a very easy one for everyone. Matt is very customer centric for both internal and external folks. He's always working on ways to streamline IT. And I think if you've ever worked with Matt, you know he's very dedicated to this organization. So I completely support his appointment, and I hope you all will too.
Any questions? The board? Thank you. Thank you, Rich.
You all, and Rachel Pelio. I'm here, very similar situation to Matt Hans. We have Margaret Lawrence here with us tonight. She also has completed her 2nd probationary period, so she, 2 years ago, I guess during the pandemic, was honored here by Helen for her completion of her 1st probationary period as our zoning stewardship coordinator, I believe. She has now completed 2 additional years as the assistant director of development. Thank you, Margaret, for all your hard work. I'm just gonna read a couple of things just to make sure that I cover everything. She has been amazing at organizing our fundraising events, helping us hit our goals, and building strong connections with donors and businesses. Her creativity and attention to detail have brought in significant support for the annual Vintners and Valentine's dinner, which we will be celebrating in April, and that will be our 10th anniversary Vintners and Valentine's dinner, as well as the golf tournament. Margaret's dedication to managing scholarships is inspiring. She ensures that deserving students get the financial help they need and builds great relationships with the benefactors who provide those scholarships. For over 150 active scholarships, it's probably more than that. I'm not sure the exact number. A lot of work. She's also done a fantastic job of managing our facilities rentals. She now oversees Tara Bloom, our part-time events coordinator, who oversees the facilities rentals at FLCC. But the most outstanding part of Margaret is that she has a very genuine care for our students, donors, alumni, and her teammates, and she consistently puts their needs first and has become a respected figure at our community college. So I strongly endorse Margaret's appointment.
Well, I don't think there's anybody here that would echo that.
I'm en route. Good evening, Laura Ortiz, and it is my pleasure to present 5 administrative appointment recommendations. So the first is our host for this evening, Alexandria Esposito, who we all call Allie. And just a few highlights is Allie's authentic compassion. She brings that level of authentic care in a very holistic sense, body, mind, and spirit. And she continues for both her professional academic training and also continues in her personal development as well. I have had the opportunity to attend various programs that Allie has facilitated here at Muller, and she just brings a tremendous service, care, and passion for humans, animals, and nature alike. So I strongly endorse Allie continuing to shine at FLCC and bringing that harmony to our college. And Allie's done that. Next is Jeff Dugan, who is also with us this evening. Jeff is the Assistant Director of Online Learning in the Academic Technology and High Impact Practices Unit. Also, so I have had personal interactions with Jeff in this role as my daughter came through FLCC as a full-time online student. So I can absolutely attest to the individualized care that Jeff puts into every interaction with our students. He also has served the college most recently as the chair of college council, has been a key author, if I will, in our SUNY online certification, and also our soon-to-be launched online viticulture certificate. So we are thrilled for those amazing contributions. Jeff also continues in his both academic, professional, and personal development as well. And also highly recommended, and we look forward to his continuing contributions to the college. The next individual that I would like to present for recommendation for administrative appointment is Leslie Pierre-Philippe, Senior Professional Academic Advisor in the Registration in Academic Advising Career and Transfer Services Office, ACTS, which is led by Mahegan Murphy. Leslie is on vacation, so she can't be with us this evening. But as you have read, she is a trusted colleague. She does an excellent job in honoring past practices, utilizing data to inform improvements to processes and systems, and above all else, she works to meet the needs of our students. She also is the resident slate expert and exhibits a level of student-centered, authentic care. And Leslie, actually, I went through new student registration this past spring as a student, and she was my leader. And so, once again, I can personally attest to the expertise and also her ability to welcome students to the college. So, my highest recommendation for Leslie. Okay, next we have Lisa Thomas, who you have just heard from this evening, the Director of Academic Success and Access Programs in Student Affairs, led by Sarah Whippen, AVP of Student Affairs. And it is noted as evidenced here this evening that Lisa is an exceptional team member. She has a broad scope in terms of tutoring services, EOP, and disability services. So those are three large student support areas that are critical to the success of our students. And one story I'd like to share, Lisa mentioned in her presentation about those EOP students who had received the academic honors. I attended that reception. And if you had seen the pride in Lisa with those students, but also how they connected with her, it was obvious that Lisa played a very important role in their success. So I think that speaks all, that her support and encouragement of students and colleagues is outstanding. And then finally, I think, and I'm sure that you read, but there is creativity, innovation, and also the ability to set up infrastructure to support these services in an efficient and effective way. So with that, I highly recommend Lisa Thomas for administrative appointment. Last but not least, I would like to present Mary Elizabeth Biarubini, Academic Technology Specialist in the Academic Technology and High Impact Practices Unit. Mary Elizabeth is not able to be with us this evening. But also she is another who has continued her professional development. She recently earned her master's in management and also continued on to receive an online student support certificate program in order to be able to educate others. She does also teach in our workforce and career solutions. She also has served the college when we are going through accreditation, so working with middle states and taking the lead. And her institutional service includes representing her division on academic senate. So with that, I would also like to recommend Mary Elizabeth Diobini for administrative appointment.
Thank you.
Keep it rolling. We have two positions for seeking your approval this evening for, that will revise the professional service roster. The first position is our IT network security specialist. I don't know about you, but some of these IT positions, they kind of blend together. This one is special to us. It replaces the technology specialist at our campus center. The duties of the tech specialist, such as network to telecommunication, this is a new position. This position will handle higher level networking and telephony technical support, and will also serve as backup to the network administrator. Very important to have that. This position will provide dedicated focus on our institution's cybersecurity posture and attack surface. We definitely appreciate this one. And this position is actually, we reviewed it, and it's going from pay group D to pay group A within the professional association pay group base. The next one is the campus student and technical support specialist at the Victor campus. This position is full-time 12-month. It replaces the technical specialist smart systems technologies position. This is a 1-year temporary position. This position will provide support for operational functions for smart system technologies, laboratory equipment, and will also assist with program recruitment and industries and community. It will also support the Victor Campus Center operations. This position is also moving within the pay group structure in the professional association from an E to a C. Any questions on those positions? We'll go on to the next resolution, which is to approve non-unit employee reappointments for 2024 and 2025. We're seeking your approval for the reappointment of each employee in the listing that you have in the unclassified, unrepresented management confidential group. HR has administered and verified that each staff has received an evaluation of their performance, of which all were satisfactory. So we're seeking your approval for their reappointment. Any questions?
Thank you.
Next, we're also seeking your approval for each management confidential employee in the listing that you have receive a 2.5% increase to their base compensation. This increase is within the lines of increases that other groups of the organization have received and negotiated the Faculty Association, Professional Association, and CFPA groups. All the same increase level. Any questions?
Thank you. Oops. Oh. The strategic thought presentation was, this is a delightful opportunity to really focus on this gem that we're all sitting at. So,
We're going to do some of that afterwards as well.
yeah, Ally, take it away.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to have everybody here. So yeah, my name's Allie, and I am just gonna talk to you a little bit about Muller, what we do here, I know that most of you have been here, or at least half of you have been here before. So I won't be too long in this little talk. But I've been here for 5 years, and this has been basically a second home for me. I'm here all the time, and I'm taking care of everything. So what we do here at Muller, just a little bit of background, this was donated back in 2000 by Mr. Muller and Miss Florence Muller over here, so they're right over here. And they owned about 2,500 acres of the southern Honeyway Valley. So Emil was a sportsman, he hunted big game, as you can tell, we have a polar bear on the wall and a brown bear, or grizzly bear. And this is the short story. Once he passed away, Florence inherited most of that land, the chalet, as they like to call it. And she saw an opportunity to give this to educational facilities. So Finger Lakes Community College had a conservation department, we still do. And it just lined up and it made sense for us to inherit this place. So this is about 48 acres. And it's really used by 3 audiences. So we have, of course, our conservation department. The students come here for different courses, like our wetland mammals course, which is a residential course. We have a fish technology course that comes here as well. We do have a fish hatchery at one site that we propagate walleye. So that's utilized by the students. They get so much hands-on experience here, which is wonderful. We have a residential course that meets every Friday. It's an ecology lab. So there's a lot happening here. Going along with that, we have our swamp program, which is an internship program. So it's science with a mindful purpose. And these are anywhere from 15 to even 30 internships a semester that are paid and funded by the Muller Foundation. They get paid minimum wage, but this program has grown so much, and we've partnered with many organizations in this Finger Lakes region. So Montezuma is one of them, Coming Nature Center, the Canandaigua Lake Watershed Association. There's probably 6 or 7 different organizations that we partnered with. And what's happening is the students are working with those organizations, and that's really giving them an opportunity to find a full-time job or at least continue with those organizations in a professional capacity. So that's been amazing. I work a lot I do have interns. I oversee the garden internship and the education internship here at Muller. And it's very fun to work with the students. I don't get to work with the college students a lot. My main role here is to work with K through 12. So this is a field trip destination for K through 12 area school districts. And it's just growing and growing. And it's actually to the point where I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? Which we have 2 part-time educators, we have our intern, and then we have other volunteers that help us as well. It's a lot of fun. We go canoeing with them. We explore trail cameras. We look at macroinvertebrates, which are aquatic insects. There's a lot that we do. So that's great. And then another thing that I've been really passionate about while working here at Muller is really expanding our community outreach. So we have a lot of different opportunities for community members to come here. So we have a monthly presentation series called The Talk on the Wild Side. We have community channel paddles. We have permaculture workshops. We had a workshop on identifying tardigrades, just anything you can imagine that's related to science, as we're exploring many things. One of what Laura spoke to is I lead a lot of wellness and mindfulness programs. So that's been a passion of mine for the past 7 years of my life. And I host yoga here, and I invite other local organizations, small businesses to come here and utilize this space. What's great about that is we are pulling people from up in Rochester to come here, and they're just blown away. It's a retreat for them. We did have our first retreat here in May, and we hope to do that more. Okay, keep talking. Maura wishes she was here today. That's the director of the field station, but she actually just got back from South Africa yesterday, which was I believe 16, 17 people went on this trip, and there was support from the Muller Foundation. So people got funding to go on this trip, and they got college credit. And it seemed like it was amazing. I wish I could have gone, but I didn't go this year. One of the biggest things that is going to happen here is we have a bunkhouse that's being built right next to us. And that's going to house 24, up to 24 people to stay here overnight. And we have, you know, beautiful schematic design that it's very, very beautiful, and we can't wait to have it here and continue to invite people to stay here for a longer period of time. It's nice to come here for 3 hours, but it's really nice to be here for 24 or 48 or whatever, just to really immerse yourself in this space and connect. So that's what we do here. There's always so much going on, and if you want to follow along, we have a newsletter, we have, you know, Facebook, Instagram, and we're very active on all of those platforms. So thank you. Yeah, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Hi, Ally, I'm Rich Russell. I'm wondering if your webcams are tied to the FLCC page so we can follow.
Yeah, so they're not currently. We don't have any like super, you know, updated Wi-Fi ones that kind of just shoot that picture to another platform. But we do like to post our good pictures and videos on our Facebook page or on Instagram. So, yeah. We do get wonderful pictures.
There's also good ones on YouTube.
And YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel.
Oh.
So yeah, I encourage you to look at that.
Well, we had a retreat here, IT did, and we had a conversation about that, so I have a camera we can experiment with any time, but I'm trying to do it, so.
That happens. Yeah, thank you.
Alan, Donna, Helen, last time we met here, I believe you were very excited about, the progress, the plans that were in place for Muller Station. And, one of the things I thought I heard you say was talking more about branding. And, I'm trying to think back to the signage when I came in.
Yeah.
It doesn't say Finger Lakes Community College on it, does it?
It does.
It does?
It says, yeah, Muller Field Station, and then underneath says
Sure.
Finger Lakes Community. Yeah.
So will there be more of, I'm not sure what the word is, and you're doing a lot already, but I can see so many other possibilities. You talked about the retreat center, and I'm just wondering if you're tied into our hospitality program and the business program, with potential
Yeah.
for applied learning opportunities, or if there's a branding opportunity that's going to happen with a retreat center here, and how does FLCC get connected to that branding?
Yeah, those are all like good questions and ideas at the same time. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity to tie in other departments, if that's what you're hinting at. I think that's above what I've been thinking about at the moment. I'm thinking about like, how are we, you know, like just logistics of advertising and getting people here, but
That's all part of it. That's all part of
we
it.
need the maintenance and the support from other departments, and that knowledge is there, so I think that it will happen. How that will work.
One of the reasons HR is coming here for Retreat Friday is to kind of help exponentially grow our well-being and our wellness group at the college, which is growing and getting going again, you know, from like, you know, pre-COVID. And so we'll be here this Friday, but we're keeping in mind how we can bring it as wellness initiatives to the kind of campus to the future.
Yeah. Excited, yeah, I think it's.
Great questions for Alan. I can say we've broken, the signage and everything actually looked great. It was just, it was so, we, in the past, we've been able to drive by it.
Yeah. I worked, yeah.
Well
A
done.
lot of hours was, I worked with a designer for that.
It really was nice.
Glad you liked it.
I might just also add, it's really just very serene. It's almost like a stress relief as we make our way down here. We should
Yeah.
do this more often and it's just a lovely thing. And thanks for what you do. And thanks for the presentation.
Absolutely. I wish I had like a bunch of pictures. But this is the picture. If anybody's curious about, looking around the building or taking a walk, just like a quick loop down to the water, we can do that. It's really up to you. So we'll guide that if you want. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'm so over.
Second.
Mr. Chairman?
With respect to you, a moment.
No, it's you.
Has been, okay. Thank you. On the board, secretary, we got things to sign. We'll call the order the August 7th, 2024 Finance and Facilities Committee of Finger Lakes Community College. We have a full agenda. Primarily one presenter who's making his way to the podium right now. We'll start, however, by approving the minutes that Penny so wonderfully put together from June 5th. Our committee minutes. Any questions or comments with regard to those about 2 months ago? Perfect, once again, Penny, outstanding. We have the operating budget and finance report. Jason, welcome.
Thank you. So up on the board here are the June 30th results. This shows our revenues at 50.2 million. Majority of that is related to our summer increase in FTEs, 16% increase, 18% as you compare it to the budget that we had proposed. We had proposed a 2% decrease for both summer and fall and spring. So fall and spring up 6% in FTEs, which drive an 8% increase overall. The other impact is our chargeback rate. So as we expected a decrease, that chargeback rate actually helped us current year because we had anticipated a reduced part line balance. So all of that increase in enrollment helps to exceed our budget at all.
So just a question, maybe you could refresh the board's memory here. Our annual budget number for the 23-24 year target number was
For revenue was 40.2 million. So that's this number here before we use our fund balance.
Right.
The fund balance budget, with our fund balance, we were anticipating 49 million. So our revenues, and then Joe, we scroll down just a little bit, the expenses equal to 0. So just a little bit further. So our total overall budget's 49.9.
And again, just for edification, like we're already, 80+% through the fiscal year and you're already exceeded from a revenue standpoint.
Yep, the additional revenue that I'm anticipating, we did bill $800,000 in chargeback revenue in July. This is for our summer tuition. So it'd be about 2.8 million in additional revenue. So.
Questions on the revenue side?
It's just a logistical question. So when that revenue comes in, it's applied to current budget, for next budget.
Yep, yeah. Now, with some of our increase in revenue and enrollment, we anticipate some of our allowance reductions to increase as well, so that may help, that will offset some of that additional allowance that we will need to follow as we get to the year end.
Other questions on revenue? Expenses?
Expenses, we're in line. I do anticipate some salary savings that will come through. You do see that we are a little bit below, the 83.3% of the year, and we're around 77%. Expense. We do have 3 payrolls in the month of August, so that will increase. But we are in line with where we expect salaries to be. Some of those salary savings will offset some supply expenses, mainly our expenses that we have for contractors that come in to fill some of those vacancies. So that will offset some of those increases that you may see down in the supply and expense line.
But outside the salary top path there, any timing issues with regard to the bottom three you have there in terms of?
Utilities sometimes lags, but I think we're, we caught up.
Okay.
In past presentations, I've said that Gemini, the scholarships that we have, revenue up in revenues, scholarships down here. We were doing that this year more timely, as the revenues recognized for the expense. Previous years, that expense wasn't recognized until later in the year, of May timeframe and stuff. So that is finally caught up, so we can have some comparison.
So specifically equipment, less than 50% of the budget spent, you anticipate from the timings that might take
Some of
away?
that IT equipment that gets purchased here in July, August, to prepare or something like that.
Questions? Yes, Jeff.
Jeff Askins, you think we're reasonably on schedule or on target to spend that 1.7 million in the fund balance? Or do you think we'll get away with spending a little less?
We're going to spend on the fundamentals. I think we'll break it.
Good.
I think we will be adding to the fund balance in the upcoming year, this year. And again, the increases that we've seen in our FTEs, both in the summer and fall and spring, have led to a lot of that increases. Our expenses, we do have salary savings that are being recognized. So, we won't get to the 49.9 million. So that will stand to the fund balance, but, I do caution that enrollment, don't know what it's going to decrease enrollment. So, I don't want to get everyone excited that we're adding a lot to the fund balance, but we do have to think about future years and what that looks like. So.
But it's nice to be adding to it as you can.
It is.
Well, the budgetary reversal, if you will, not just the 1.7 you realize, but also to Donna's question, that excess revenue.
Yeah.
An opportunity certainly to add to it.
Yeah.
So.
But I said that it's increased pressure on applicants. As we look at our students that sometimes we're paying bills.
Right.
So there is I think you see some added pressure as we go through the next couple of years. And then utilize COVID funds when those came out, offsets and write-offs for the student accounts. I think some of the sight was lost on what those write-offs were, and we need to help build that. So.
Final questions on the 23-24 budget. Anything else to offer?
The only other thing I'd offer is this summer, we're participating in the RG&E curtailment program. So over 3 days, we did save about $12,000 in expenses. We continue to participate in that, so I anticipate some savings will come back to us.
One-time savings?
One-time savings, yeah. But we have been able to participate in that based on electrical upgrades that we've done last summer, which allow us to be able to divert power other places. So we do participate in that, so I anticipate some savings that will come. We'll get a check sometime in October, so it won't be recognized necessarily in this budget.
Since you mentioned RG&E, I've come to me a couple times in the last month, but someone asked about wind power because we're on a hill. Is that something that's ever been explored, or no, there's some visual challenges as well as physical challenges? Is that something that is,
Gabby and I have discussed alternative energy uses, solar and wind. I think it's a larger study that needs to be looked at as we progress. Don't remember it being necessarily talk about the facilities master plan, but I know that there are studies out there. I certainly would come in and do a study, but I think wind power, turbines being on top of that hill, I don't know. Maybe have hill with. Are the houses that are up there.
But solar as well.
Solar as well, you know, I think as we look at adding additional buildings, you know, the conservation building that's in the master plan, potentially adding solar to that. But, you know, is there potential to add solar fields potentially? But there is also, could you tap into someone that already has a solar field? So, you know, I think there's opportunities that we'll keep looking at.
The three greenhouses.
Yeah, yeah, the greenhouse building. Yep.
Shifting to this next fiscal year, 24-25 presentation on the upcoming budget.
Yep, so there's just a few changes, as we progress with the county after I gave you a presentation at June. I just wanted to update quickly here. I can use the clicker and drive the slides that I don't want to show you, so.
It's the world.
What's wrong?
By now.
We just went through a million.
Now you can hear me.
Let's go to the slide, okay. So nothing changed on the overall expense budget. Still operating expenses anticipating 51.4 million. Really what changed was sponsor contribution in our revenues, went back to the anticipated operating amount that was provided by Ontario County last year's proposal, $3.9 million. What that does is it does increase the use of our anticipated use of our fund balance to 2.8. It's about a $729,000 change. We are continuing discussions with the county on reevaluating the sponsor contribution and pushing more of that sponsor specific into sponsor contribution. There's recognition as we talk to Ways and Means on the impact that's having to the college. So Barry, Gates, and I have been working on different scenarios that will be talked about as the county works through their budget process for the upcoming year. So it's really timing as far as the county works on the budget for their fiscal year, January 1st, versus ours, which starts at 9/1. So we do anticipate some changes as that comes through. So.
Questions there, even specific questions on the sponsor number, you know? Okay. Keep going.
It doesn't change much. The only thing that changed on this slide is the increase in their appropriated fund balance to the 2.8 million. And then the last slide, I just wanted to bring up, we had talked about showing the cost by function as a percentage of total costs. What I took was where Finger Lakes is standing versus the community college average. One of the points I want to draw out is as you look at instruction versus our maintenance operation plan. The county has provided additional 500,000 to us that many of these other schools do not get offsets those costs. At 500,000 turns into $1 million because we do go to the state to get state match for it. So that I think helps to draw why we can spend a little more on instruction. Also, as we look at our FTEs have remained relatively consistent over the years. Other community colleges have seen significant declines. Where I think we could focus on some attention on academic student services, helping with our retention. So I think there'll be some shift. I also look at some more early retirement packages that are offered as you look at instruction across other community colleges. So some of our costs may be elevated because we haven't had a robust early retirement program. I know we did offer it here before COVID, but others have continued to offer that throughout the last couple of years. So what does that do from an instructional, as I look at these numbers? So cool. Here. And then readjusting our sponsor contribution, the impact on the fund balance. So as we continue to increase or progress through the years, this assumes a 0% increase in enrollment throughout the year. It does. Expenses are increasing, salaries, there was work in there, 2.5% increase based on current contracts. Benefits see the largest increase. The anticipated about a 10% increase in benefits, especially healthcare year after year. So it keeps driving those costs up.
So I guess I'll put it down first, please. Oh, no, please, thank you for.
I hate to bring up chargebacks, sure, we go through this.
I love
over and over again. But the anticipation of what a chargeback is going to be, it's tough enough to figure it out when you're in the budget year.
Yeah.
So are you doing anything differently in thinking about calculations for chargebacks as we move forward, or? Just want a little bit of that. Yes.
We really, the chargeback model is impacted based on anticipated enrollment increases and then how much your expenses are increasing. So it affects your numerator. Once that's calculated, if you take your overall operating expenses and subtract out certain revenue categories. So if you anticipate that increase in your revenues, which we do anticipate a 2% increase in our fees every year tuition, that will offset some of those increases in expenses. So the only way, you talk about chargeback revenue, right, is increase, your expenses increasing more than revenues. So that's where you see, you're picking up 300,000. 600,000. So that's where you're starting to see that chargeback revenue because it helps. It's trying to offset your appropriate fund balance that you're continuing to see an increase in as well. So there's not, you can look at it, but it's hard to affect. What can you do differently to help pull other chargeback revenue? So.
Thanks.
Yeah, and in the past, they had talked, SUNY had always talked about doing a true up to your chargeback rate. And because, you can, right now, right, for 23-24, we have 49.9 million anticipated expenses, right? Full budget. We build the budget based on full salary. Knowing that there's vacancies that occur throughout the year, but we need to ensure that we can have full rates, because if we do so, they have no vacancies, then we lose out on that. So, it's tough. It's tough to be able to drive different numbers. I think what impacted us this year and made us go back to the county and say, hey, that sponsor specific investment you're giving us has actually reduced, the overall operating expense increases that we've seen, which then lowered that chargeback rate. Because we didn't have a decrease in our revenues, which would have kept our chargeback rate up. We actually increased revenues because of our 6% increase in FTEs for the fall, spring, utilizing that and then saying no increase. So we've actually driven revenues up higher year over year. So
Other questions on the projections? So I guess that's more of a statement. I have a little bit of a concern about the line just beneath what Donna focused on, the appropriated fund balance. That's a trend line that is unsettling.
Yeah.
And starts to really eat up a fund balance.
Yeah.
And just the mere jump from this year to next is, I would even use the word deeply concerning. It's double, more than double. So that's a trend line that doesn't bode well.
No, so the way I look at it, sponsor contribution is the biggest impactor that could drive that balance down. And I know that we're in discussion with that with the county right now. Moving some of that sponsor specific investment back. What it's done down here is it actually is that sponsor specific investment and pulling expenses out that have created into a restricted fund. Once I add some of these expenses back, what that will do is increase our chargeback revenue because we'll have additional expenses in there. So there will be some movement back down once we get a final number. But we still, if I think back at what I had done in the past with our fund balance or keeping the sponsor specific investment in, we were still about 1.2 to 1.7 million in use of fund balance every year into the future. So when the county comes back and says, hey, we're increasing your sponsor contribution, I know that this number, fund balance, is going to come down. And expenses will go up, so our chargeback revenue. So I think there'll be some downward slope in here. I know that we also have that, you have some vacancy savings that you're generating every year, so we're not always using what is it's helping to balance the budget. It's up to us to make sure that we're staying within budget. There's savings that are being created, vacancies and other things.
Okay, just
It's still,
elephant in the room, I had to get it done.
Yeah.
it's still gonna be it's a matter of degree, but it's still a trend. It's not.
9 million over a 3-year period of time from 24 to 27.
Right.
Where if it's 1.2 a year, it's a factor of 3.
And I assume the county is well aware of that fluctuation in personnel services, simply because they work their fund balance.
Yep.
Up and down the same way that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
In fact,
No, they
pushback from the county shouldn't be heavy duty.
right. No, and I think Mary understands that. I think the county recognizes that the intention of sponsor specific investment was to help us. And, after we showed them that actually increased our use of fund balance because of our loss of chargeback revenue. I think they've now looking at how can we help the college sharing that. And not impact the sponsors.
I appreciate you taking a lead on it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Figure out some new guy in town, so.
Give you a pointy helmet.
Final thought, comments, questions before we move to resolution. Jason, anything else you wanna? Got about 10 or so resolutions to use my colleague Cushman's guidance here. If I get the highlights, that would be terrific.
Okay. You guys want to know about asbestos?
Why we're on. Everyone is there.
We're given.
The distance learning telemedicine system, this is mainly 1.1 and putting technology into classrooms and rural classrooms. There is a cost share match, 15% from the participating sponsors, $140,000. 6,000 of that will be paid. This was we had done an original bid in April. We actually rescinded that bid, rejected all those bids, and redid the bid to highlight the requirements that were in the grant. So this one only had one bidder that came back, so we accepted that.
Unless you hear a comment, just keep
Okay.
on. This is a.
Next one's the operating budget. So this reflects the numbers that are within our operating budget that was just presented. If anyone does any homework and looks at what the county approved, the county's budget operating number did include the sponsor-specific investments, so their expenses are higher. But we've talked to SUNY, they'll accept the 51.4. That is our true operating number that's generating those chargebacks. So you'll see a little bit of a difference if anyone does any check.
Okay.
The next one is to authorize the vehicle lease between FLCC and Holman Fleet Leasing. Holman was one of the lowest quotes that we received. We're looking to lease 6 vans to be utilized by our athletic, conservation, and helping to transport students. Right now, the way the market is, I feel like leasing is the better option to do. It keeps the gas from in-house, then you can pay limited amount over those months. FLCC Association will be billed for 3 vans. If everything is done through the college, we will bill the association for 3 of those vans.
Just I have a question. Are any of the vehicles hybrid or EVs? Are we looking at any of those kind of green opportunities?
Not yet, because I have no way to charge them. We will look at those in the future, as we progress. We are adding EV stations to GLOC. CMAC, we have applied for funding, to add EV stations there. As we look at adding buildings, that would be the opportunity. The cost to any of the lots on campus right now, over $1 million. So it's a pretty sizable investment to that EV station.
Yes. Thanks.
The next one's the lease renewal between FLCC and New York Kitchen. No change in the monthly rate. They did increase the rate, the assistant to the 115. The next one is lease between FLCC and EV Supply Solutions for our printers across campus. This will add 22 printers, will replace the existing printers and add updated printers with EV Supply Solutions. Again, we received quotes for this. This is the lowest quote we've received. Monthly cost of $4,156. There is, thought on here, reducing some of our footprint of printers, consolidating some of our departments that have one in each department that sits in the same hallway into one central location. So there is, we'll continue those discussions, but.
Great.
The next one is our shared services with the county. This is workers' comp, or $87,000 decrease. The county carries our workers' comp policy. So we did see a pretty sizable increase of 120 last year to 87 this year. So they do anticipate that this will be a continued increase. So the next one is formal approval of the Simplicity for disability services software. We did send you the information ahead of time on that to seek approval so we could start with that disability services. The next resolution is to talk about the proposal, to accept the proposal from Bonadeo Group. We had Bonadeo as well as Director Rocky come and give presentations. The reason for the recommendation of Bonadeo, their history with community colleges, their history with FLCC, my continued changeover staff that I have. Well, our Bonadeo to continue our partnership. And really for me to continue focusing on that. I need to work with Randy to partner, continue to make sure we have a good partnership as we move forward.
Thank you to trustee Astles for giving us that opportunity through the committee to hear those proposals and so forth. It certainly gave us a chance to hear it up close and personal. It was enlightening, very enlightening.
And this was all based on rubrics that focused on cost, college, community college experience, as well as the stock. So.
Okay.
This is the fun one. So this one is to rescind our resolution of our approval of the facilities master plan that we did back in April. And then or in June. And then the next one is to actually approve that facilities master plan. It's a process of order seeker to facility master plan approval. So that's what those two do.
All within Robert's rules. Just
so then the master plan will be produced and be ready to go. The next one is to accept the bid for default prevention with Ascendium Education Solutions. This again was based on rubric that was developed for to create each proposal that came through. And the final, almost the time is a renewed lease with SUNY to have an individual sit there. This is for and then others are budget transfers.
excellent job. Jason's here, questions, Scott?
I just was curious about the SUNY person. Is this a new?
Cheers.
As long as we've had the,
Yes.
the T10 program.
I would say close to 10 years of that we've had this relationship and housing there. Housing their staff member who is a former member of the IT. Which did here.
Oh.
But they work for SUNY High Tech.
Right.
That's their technical aspects of SUNY.
Bill Cram.
Jason, you get the final word, anything?
Share with that, share.
We will adjourn this committee meeting and Mr. Chairman, we'll be back 3 minutes.
Thank you, trustee Martin.
We need a motion. I'm sorry, please, a motion. Thank you, Jeff, and a second. Thank you, Rich. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, again, thank you, trustee Martin.
Still 3 minutes.
That's all right. I'd like to call the board of trustees meeting to order. Is there any community or public comment? Sounds like none. Like a motion to approve the consent agenda minutes and resolution.
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you. I don't have any old business because I haven't been here long enough.
Can't use that next month.
Not be- yeah. Thank you so much. New business though. I'd like to thank Donna for getting me on the NYCCT Awards Committee several years ago. I'd often just sit there, we'd have conferences on the phone, and I'd see all these names go by and people, I have no idea who they are, but they sound really great on paper. So this year, it so happens that we get 2 people from the FLCC Board of Trustees who came across. So right away, I voted, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So they're gonna get their awards on October 5th at the NYCCT conference. We're gonna do a little presentation in the November meeting for them. But I'd just like to tell you, the first one is Santa Abraham, who is going to be recognized for the 2024 Donald M. Winnie Junior Trustee Leadership Award. And the other one, Rich Russell, for the Marvin A. Rapp Award for Distinguished Trustee Service.
Favor vice manager.
More like
just desserts.
That's terrific.
Okay, President's report.
Thank you. Trustee Chair. Yes. Just have to say that first time. I'll be as brief as possible. I just want to give you an update about funding and advocacy and the difference in advocacy and the efforts that trustee Cushman and others have done. We received $8 million from SUNY that was not really operation funding, but tied to specific activities. And it was based on healthcare, it was based on the governor's initiative. And we are going to look at using that, looking for final confirmation for two individuals in the nursing program or healthcare, one for a healthcare instructional designer, and one for a nursing simulation coordinator, which is great when you see the facilities going to get to help. And also how SUNY has, and the state has allowed for increased simulation to take care of clinicals. And also for part-time, paying for part of administrator to accommodate the expanding healthcare programs. The LPN program will be starting in the fall. It's full with 16 students and have a waiting list. So thank you for Carol Abatis and Dr. Ortiz and their teams for those activities to get that going. So we received $309,000. It's supposed to be continued year over year. We'll see, because it's not within the actual state funding for us, but we'll see where it goes. We'll take it while we can get it.
State will determine. Wisdom.
So business as usual. I also wanted to highlight, thank you, Donna, for twisting my arm for a larger retreat this summer. And I encourage you to read the book that you have here to go along with the presenter that will be there by the name of Mr. Bill Daggett. He's going to talk about AI, which is very important in terms of what's the future going to look like. You mentioned something that's concerned. It'll be budget activities when you saw what Trustee Mark put up. What are our challenges? It's not just financial. It's the changing world of education and the changing world and environment. So this book gives you a great history about reform 150 years ago in university systems. It talks about challenges today. It talks about three industries that some companies did very well with drastic changes in the last 20 years and some that did not. So it's sort of a bookend to having someone talk to us about AI. And what is AI going to do? We don't really know where it's going to go, but no one knew where the iPhone was going to take us in 2007 and how much it does for us now. So that retreat is really designed to help us look at how are we going to support our strategic planning, essentially, in terms of what does the future look like? Why? Because one of our strategic goals is about opportunity and innovation. That was put in there because we know we have to be different and look for opportunities and do things down the road. If we don't, we'll fall behind, as we've seen some of our schools. We've done very, very well. We should be very, very proud as a college as a whole of where we're at educationally, operationally, financially, and so forth right now, but you can't rest on your laurels. So this retreat is designed to bring a big team together with trustees, cabinet members, and key individuals, directors, AVPs, and so forth together to have a really good discussion. What's the future look like? Where do we need to go? So I look forward to that. Hope you enjoy it. I want to talk about student success for a second. Donna, you brought it up. The board approved, for instance, $500,000 for a presidential initiative for the PACE program. We have that. We have the EOP program, and we have the ASAP program. Well, if you want to know if it's working, at least in whole numbers, not in terms of the big data, last spring semester and this fall, as of right now, we have more continuing students starting the fall semester than we have over the last decade. It was about 162 last spring. Right now, it's 80 something right now into the fall, but we've not had that. So there's a lot of great work going on that we need to celebrate as we continue. And at these programs, what we look to do with EOP, ASAP, and PACE, especially EOP and PACE, is take what we learned from the SUNY program and our program, put it together, and show you the results. And then do what I've asked my team to do. You bring things to the forefront that need funding, show us the return on investment. And I'd like to do that in this case, and show you a return on investment, what these programs do, and ask to do it again, as long as we can prove that it's working. Really proud of that work that's been going on, to compliment Carol's hard work and her team in the enrollment, and now to say we're in the positive, keeping our students. And finally, I just want to celebrate a really cool thing that Dr. Abetis started and Dr. Ortiz's folks have helped. Zach, she's still here, yeah, right there. Good. Today, we celebrated the culmination of the Rochester Urban League's summer camp at FLCC. Wow. They spent time here, they spent time on all sorts of different places, put together a talent show today that was tremendous. And it's important because now, it's one of those things where we have a presence in Rochester. It's important for us in many, many different ways. And it was a great event, second year it was run. I'm just very thankful to the folks that put that together. Thank you very much, and worked on it throughout the summer, and made a difference. And so thank you to those folks. Here's my report, trustee chair.
Okay, committee and liaison reports. Trustee.
First day on the job. That's all I have to report. I hope to have more at the beginning of the semester.
Thank you very much. Yeah, welcome. Jeff?
No, nothing other than what Steve alluded to earlier.
Donna, board development?
We had a plan at the end of last year and we need to regroup. So it's a matter of getting together with Penny to set up a scheduled meetings for the year.
Okay.
So I will share that we have been able to uncover and resurrect during the request of documenting a presidential search for someday in the future. And Penny was central and instrumental in going back into two of her predecessor files. And we've also made contact with the individual who represented the firm that we hired, and she too will provide us something this fall. So we will have completed those missing pieces, and I would say by the end of the year, if not sooner.
So for those of you who are unaware, Steve is on the board development committee, has been on the board development committee, and I had been asking him to, because he chaired the previous committee, I wanted to get his take on what we need to put in place so that we're not reinventing the wheel the next time it comes around, because that's what we did last time, and that wasn't a lot of fun. So,
And in full transparency, as I transitioned from my work life where I had two large banker boxes, they got properly shredded, if you will, because they were confidential documents.
Yes.
We were able to literally recruit that.
Oh, that's
And, it's incredible the amount of work that Penny did. So Penny, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ongoing topic for several years. Well, for how long have you been here?
8 years.
8 years. And
Made me nervous every year too.
I know. Saying, not to talk about that yet. But my whole goal was that we do this in a calm time where nobody is under pressure to be making any kinds of decisions, and that we capture all the wonderful things that happened about that last search.
Well, thank you for your leadership, because you really drove this down. I appreciate that. So that'll be something for not only this group, but future trustees as well. So
Thank you for keeping the board development committee alive over the summer.
thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, thanks.
Hey, I don't have an association report. Trustee, I guess.
Okay, I have two things. We have some foundation awards coming up. The first one is an exceptional service award. And it's going to go to Samantha. And is he here?
No, he's not. He's not here.
Okay. Sam usually is here. This is an award to honor individuals' contribution to campus experience, commitment to students, innovative programs, and involvement with not only the FLCC Association, but the four women leader CCFL. And everybody knows Sam, and Sam is the number one person who advocates for the college. I have never said anybody, no, for sure, right. Go straight to it, and there's no question about his loyalty and how much he loves the college and how much he advocates for the college. The second award, is the 2024 Phoenix Community College Foundation Award. And this goes to a person who has given long-term leadership and commitment to the college as far as funding, growth, and success. And the person receiving it this year spent many years in the foundation work, pushing for the foundation to grow, and then became a board member. And our OC Martin is going to serve this year. And so, Steve, we thank you for all your incredible service and ability.
Be anyone in this room, just humbled to be. I'm humbled.
And so that's all, that's my positive report.
On NYCC.
Yes, okay, well, you should have gone after me. I did, on a slightly more concerning note, the NYCCT board was asked by SUNY to meet with the chancellor and the emeritus chair, SUNY board trustees, to talk to us about changes in presidential search process. Johanna Duncan-Barbier, who has announced her retirement, by the way, is senior vice chancellor of community colleges. She was the first and only community college person at SUNY. And with her retirement, she will be there through the beginning of September. So we're hoping that she will be able to come to the NYCCT conference this September. And she attended the meeting, but she didn't have much to say. The gist of the conversation was that the chancellor, who does not need approval from anyone else to change the rules on this, has decided that community colleges in their presidential search process were not always following the guidelines that have been put out. And so the change that we kept trying to discern whether this was an informative meeting where we were being told that this was a done deal, or if this, we were being asked for our input. We believe it's a done deal because the chancellor has stated that he doesn't need approval. So instead of presenting one finalist to SUNY for their approval, we will now be required to present three finalists to SUNY. And then they will let us, the community colleges, know if any of those candidates would not pass muster from the chancellor's perspective. I believe, and this is a very personal opinion, I believe this is being driven by the chancellor perhaps feeling embarrassed by several situations that have happened with community college presidents recently. There was a sexual harassment issue with one of the community college presidents. There apparently, and I'm not quite sure where this was, there was an issue with perhaps a golden parachute that was apparently not to the liking of the chancellor. And there was, as many of you know, Nassau Community College continues to have issues with getting an appropriately approved person from SUNY, or they don't stay. So That's fine. And the chancellor does not want to be embarrassed because he feels that he's responsible for all these community college presidents and therefore wants to have a tighter rein. There was also a person on there who should have brought his name. Trying to remember what department he is from. Oh, no, this was another, it was actually a SUNY trustee that I admire, Stanley Littell, who has understood the workings of community colleges much better than most of the other SUNY trustees. And he kept saying that this should be a collaborative effort with the trustees. So my comment back was, if you are asking for our input as the board of NYCCP, why not expand that a bit? Call this a pilot program because they were concerned that these regulations be put in place prior to the beginning of this academic year. So this is happening right now. Because of the searches that are coming up. There are 3 and it looks like there may be 5. So my suggestion was that we consider this a pilot program and to get input from the community colleges who are actually going through this process to have input. It was agreed, to her credit, Chairwoman Tisch suggested that we have a second meeting to discuss further this collaboration so that it was not, so that there could be more input from trustees as opposed to it coming down from on high. That's how I interpreted how she was trying to coordinate the group. So we would have one more meeting prior to the academic year, and we will let you know what happens. But again, that affects what our policies would be and certainly how we proceed. But I just wanted, my concern is that there's something deeper happening, which is that with the resignation of retirement of Johanna, that my concern is that position may be watered down because everybody kept saying, but we have a great, you guys are already part of the process the whole way through, you know. She had a soft right from the beginning. So my concern is that the position may be watered down, or the position may be subsumed into someone else's job, or that the position that NYCCT fought so hard for those many years ago to get a community college advocate in SUNY who would be there, even though she didn't report to the trustees, she reports to the president. However, that's a concern that I have going forward, and I just wanted to let you know that perhaps no one has talked about what will happen to them, to Johanna's position, if they're interviewing, if one of her staff will be moving up, or if one of the many new administrative people who've been added to the SUNY staff simply take over some of those things. And how successful that will be, I don't know, but I wanted to let you.
I see 2 negatives in the past. The negative is to lose somebody like Joanna who you do very, very bad. And the fact that the chancellor is interested in seeing you through final people is what is the reason? The negative part of that is control, deciding who they want as opposed to local control. Now, on the positive side, I think you're right about the embarrassment situation. We did not do a background check on our 2 finalists. He has the power to do that. To say to them, like we went through the place here for the same reason. They had been embarrassed by some of the trustees that had been appointed, and they went to this rigorous thing about filling out what? am I exaggerating, 12 or 13 pages of stuff. And then having a background check by the state police and being to the front. That would be a positive thing. He could do that with those 3 people in your pool, and you would know ahead of time if something came up that would be embarrassing. I always like to look at the positive and the negative. But with the Johanna thing to attach to it, yeah.
And that may just be my personal spin on that, but I just thought I would let you know.
2 questions. In all this discussion about how he's going to change the process, has there been anything stipulated as to the criteria by which he's going to make his decision? Because my first thought is, what if he just decides not to decide?
And that's
Well-
always kind of a valid question.
Welcome to the back door of consolidation.
That's already happening in one college.
Yep.
Yes.
So, you know, and the second thing is, the state of New York doesn't do anything quickly. So, you know, we could be sitting around with our picks and then wait 6-9 months, you know, we go through a whole academic year. And the other question is, assuming that, at least in our case, we could put forth 3 candidates that we really didn't care who got picked. You know, we could live with all of them. The question is, what criteria is he gonna use to make a decision? We have our criteria. You know, first, there could be a lot, there's the opportunity to interject a lot of additional, quite frankly, irrelevant criteria by which to make that decision.
In 30 separate cases, 30 separate community colleges for the whole state.
So it was very clear, was made very clear from the trustees that regardless of whether this is a done deal or not, or whether this comes down to that, is the perception of this will be loss of local control. And there's been no discussion about the local sponsor. And there's been no, you know. We finally seem to have made a dent that the perception of this will be
negative,
very negative, no matter what the intent is. If the intent was stated as to increase the diversity of the pool for presidential candidates. And the other was to prevent embarrassing situations, and he certainly did use that word, embarrassment. So we're not clear about all of those questions that you have. Local control, what are these additional rubrics? Will it be simply, you know, how do we know that 3 of them would be rejected? It's highly unlikely, but we asked, what was the percentage of rejections? And we're told that in the last 17 months, 2 candidates were rejected. I don't know how many searches there were.
Like 5 searches.
40% rejection rate.
that's not. So reasons given?
No, we did not receive the reasons. So we have questions. If you have additional questions that you want to pass along, I will pass them on to the rest of the committee. But certainly I will take your comments, all of your comments here back.
You
It's a
know,
concern.
it's a concern, and I think, maybe quicker than later, we should let our elected representatives know what is going on, because they don't like stuff like this from appointees. Because they are subject to what the public thinks, and perhaps some pressure can be brought. Certainly.
My next question, what about appointments?
Yeah,
Local sponsored,
your local sponsor would be
state
here.
government, I mean,
Yes.
what's next?
I would suggest a legal review, because if you look at the law, And when it says that the county, and that the colleges have certain rights, I think it may be an overstepping of the boundaries. And, because we read the county on what those legislative actions are that are responsibilities of the county and the college. And it appears that it may be an overstepping of the boundaries of the law. And you have a great point that we should be getting with the legislators along with the county, with the legislators to say, hey, make a change. To keep it consistent with how the colleges were created.
It's a very good idea.
Legal opinion.
Yeah, and all this is predicated on the current chancellor. If the next one's a dud,
Precedent setting.
Somebody once advised me, you can change the structures all you want to. If you don't appoint good people, doesn't make any difference what the structure is.
Yeah. And the intent seems to be coming from a good place.
Yeah, I get your point.
Right. I'm trying to find a point of common ground here.
Stuff that's like.
And, most of I have to tell you that our quick debrief afterwards, most of the people on the conversation, most of the trustees felt that the perception would be extremely negative and it would be a loss of control and that there would be no taking it back.
And the,
Right, no, that's
And
fine.
it's, this was one that the previous chancellor wished to evaluate all the presidents.
Yes.
And it was the same thing, it oversteps the bounds of responsibilities. By the way, it also, Don, I got some stuff in the middle of the meeting tonight. It also requires approval of any extensions and what goes into the extensions.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that point. Also very important point, yes. So renewal of contracts. Would.
Ours has already been voted, done, approved.
what we've already done is done, but the next one.
But then
Be different.
any reapprovals. And
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that gets into a level of.
Legal,
Yeah.
I like legal.
Yeah, I like,
Yeah.
I think we're at that point. Yeah.
Great idea.
So who's gonna organize the legal review? How's that gonna happen?
Organize what?
Is that something to work with the president? The president's gonna, is that something nice that needs to do?
I know, I think it's a good thing to talk about tomorrow when we advocacy. And then the president's, the executive committee of presidents is meeting Friday morning to talk about it. And because we just got it tonight to talk about it. I think it's gonna be a joint effort as what we've done previously.
In our ad hoc meeting for tomorrow, one of the agenda items is city help with government appointed trustees. And I think this could be another area where the counties in at large could really be a help and working together with us. And we appreciate what Ontario County's done as far as their offer to help and what they helped with the budget last year. The asks that we're making of the governor, but I think they're getting them also. I know that there's a certain amount of fear of the counties. So that they're feathers sort of ruffled, I think.
There's opportunity. I mean, if it's through overstepping bounds, it will come out. Counties can really, they have a stake and only have counties. But actually, they have a majority of the trustees that are appointed.
It's correct.
Nobody's more money.
Right, I would be concerned, right, why would you put any money in if you have no control anymore? Take that back, perhaps.
Oh,
In your first meeting.
All in favor?
I didn't get the internal memo. I don't know.
We're just good then.
Oh, I think that one thing I would add is that your position, the relationship you have right now with FLCC from my perspective, you got a very, very strong country relationship with the county. So if you continue to really
prioritize that trust and stay close. And talk through the difficult situations. I think that, that will turn into unity so that when these tougher things come out of Albany, that, because Albany is all about singular power, control, authority, money, influence. I mean, Merrill Tish is a perfect example. And I'm not casting any aspersions, because she did a lot of good things. But I'm saying that she epitomizes what we have to deal with as a local.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Well,
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
I.
Thank you very much.
What did you get for dinner for tonight? And you get your food.